Trump is turning the United States into a rogue nation that eventually, for less than altruistic reasons, I'm sure, but eventually a coalition of other nations are going to come to the conclusion that the planet would be better off without the United States. And when they make that decision, the actions necessary to implement that decision will be so destructive that nobody will be left. But I'm beginning to believe, or I'm entertaining the idea, that that's how civilization is going to end. Not that we're going to choke to death on our own effluvia, but that the rest of the world is going to look at the United States and think, mistakenly, probably, that they have an opportunity to obliterate the United States from the planet. And they'll make their move, and of course we'll respond, and that's it. Then it's all over. Why can't we put millions of people in the streets in this country and bring this fucking destructive machine to a halt? Why can't we do that one thing? The Paris Climate Agreement legally entered into force on November 4th, 2016, after the U.S. and other countries joined this deal during the Obama years. Under the rules set out by the UN, no country could withdraw the accord for 3 years, after which there's a 1-year waiting period for the withdrawal to fully take effect. The idea being, when this was drawn up, that if one nation decided, one rogue nation led by fucking gangsters and liars and murderers, and that nation tried to pull out, the other nations could sit down with this monster, whoever he would happen to be. Turns out it's our monster, and try to explain to him why it's important not to withdraw. That's what the year is for. Now, yesterday marked the first day that the gangsters that run this country could give that 1-year notice. And it wasted no time. We didn't wait till the 2nd or 3rd day or the 10th day or the 20th day. Trump, this miserable piece of shit, did it on the first day it was available to do. That means the U.S. can now officially leave the Paris Agreement on November 4th, 2020, and next year's election, presidential election, is November 3rd. Next year's presidential election is November 3rd. The U.S., under this gangster, rotten fuck Donald Trump, is going to pull us out of the agreement, as much of a weak beginning as it is, unless we remove him legally and peacefully from office the day before. Should a Democrat win the White House, the U.S. could re-enter the agreement after a short absence, as candidates in the Democratic Party have pledged to do. But if Trump wins re-election, well, you can finish that any way you want. Now, the decision to do this today comes as scientists say that the world must take what they're calling unprecedented action immediately. And over the next 10 years, cutting carbon emissions in half by 2030. 2030, how old are you going to be 10 years from now? How old are you going to be? How old is your little baby girl? How old is your little nephew? How old is your grandchildren going to be 10 years from now? 10 years from now. How old? Because after 10 years from now, if we haven't cut emissions in half, irreversible, catastrophic effects of climate change will begin. Now, according to the scientists, the world already is warm more than about 1 degree Celsius above pre-industrial levels. The Paris Agreement set the goals to keep the planet's warming below the rise of 2 degrees Celsius, and if possible, not above 1.5 degrees Celsius. 10 years. Yesterday's action, the threat, and today's withdrawal also comes a few weeks after world leaders gathered at the UN Climate Action Summit in New York to try to encourage nations to make high-profile commitments to cut the emissions that cause global warming. That's where young Miss Thunberg spoke. Critics have called Trump's dismissal of the Paris Accords irresponsible and dangerous. And according to the Washington Post, that's because of the dire warnings from scientists and the more extreme weather and devastating effects on agriculture and wildlife if we fail to drastically cut greenhouse emissions as the scientists are recommending. The Trump gangsters have also made bad decisions and bad economic policy in failing to embrace wind and solar and other renewable technologies that are growing even as the coal industry continues to fade. Trump is doing everything he can to destroy life on this planet. Does that sound hyperbolic? Does that sound like a gross exaggeration? Don't kid yourself. If anything, it's a subdued statement. Susan Biniaz, a lecturer at Yale, former State Department climate negotiator, said in an email about yesterday's announcement, quote, "While the world will not be surprised that we're doing this, it's a sad reminder of where the world's former leader on climate change now stands. The decision of 2 years ago, Trump's, to abandon the Paris Accord is now even more grotesque. The reasons for withdrawing are no more correct, and the science is even clearer that far from withdrawing, we should be increasing our effort." This is what we should be doing. When are we going to put millions of people in the streets to stop this madness and the other madness that this filthy Trump crime syndicate is dumping on us and the rest of the world? What the fuck is wrong with us? Why are we letting this go on?
Greetings, truth seekers. It's that time of year again. Time to help your humble and obedient podcaster keep it lit by keeping the lights on in the Malloy studio with a podcast pledge drive. All October, we are giving away freebies, goodies, and gifts as thank yous for subscribing or renewing your Malloy podcast at the Trump recession level reduced price of $49 a year. It's a different giveaway each week, truth seekers. Everything from an autographed copy of Mike's book, Colored Ice Cream, to my holiday baked goods. Already have a Malloy podcast? Well, it makes a great gift. And remember, podcast subscribers also get exclusive access to the weekend bonus shows, which might be hosted by Mike or by me. We even have a teen show coming up featuring Molly and her friends. Just visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe or renew today. Keep it lit.